I'm using the microphone tonight because my computer is just about on the fritz and it's kind of loud, and I'm hoping the microphone is far enough away that it doesn't pick up that loudness. So that's why I've got this. Okay, first thing I want to do is I want to welcome you to our call tonight. And I'm going to start by introducing myself. So my name is Monica. If you've not been on one of my calls before, or if you maybe just found me on Instagram, I'm trained as a life coach and a health coach. And I also endured betrayal in my marriage for over 10 years before I just decided I was ready to break free and I wanted to get back to creating joy in my own life. And now I spend my days coaching women, help them heal their heartbreak and their nervous systems. I'm the host of a podcast called From Heartbreak to Healed. And I also help people with their natural holistic health and beauty with Young Living essential oils and crunchy makeup. I love helping women to wake up to their hero's journey. And that's a little bit of what we're going to talk about tonight. But before all of that, I was a mom to 3 beautiful babies, and I wanted nothing more than to be a mom and have a family. And family is still probably more important than any other thing in my life except my faith. And so doing this work that I'm going to share with you tonight, I'm going to teach you what I have done that has allowed me to create so much joy in my life, even when my family didn't look the way it was supposed to. Although I see all along now, that's exactly how it was supposed to look. But in the moment, it didn't feel that way. So let's dive in, shall we? Welcome to the 4 steps to creating a joy-filled life after infidelity. So we're going to be talking about creating a joy-filled life tonight. And when I think about you creating joy, living out your purpose, healing your betrayal trauma, I think the thing that resonates with me the most is the hero's journey. And in the hero's journey, the hero must want something that's difficult and maybe even frightening to achieve. And we all can feel that, right? That's exactly what's happening when we decide to become the hero of our infidelity story. So I'm excited to talk about this in this specific way. I've never taught all of this in one masterclass before. I've had little snippets in all of if you listen to all my masterclasses, you will have heard some of this, but I've never put it together in this way. And I promise you, this is going to be life-changing. If you take what you learned tonight and you expand on it and you do the work with it. So before we get to step 1, because I promised you 4 steps tonight, you have to first decide what a joy-filled life looks like for you. So I'm going to ask you a couple questions. The first one is, have you taken the time to think about that, to figure that out? And the second question I'm going to ask you is what you've come up with realistic? Because we can have this thought of what we think a joy-filled life would look like, but it's not actually probably going to be our reality. And that's okay. I just want you to be aware of that. Here's the thing. After tonight, I might change your mind on what that looks like or what you need to achieve a joy-filled life. Because you might be thinking about it like in this really concrete way. And while there's nothing wrong with that, what I want to teach you is that your joy-filled life is a state of mind. It's a state of being, and that is always possible to create no matter what your circumstances are, no matter the behavior of your husbands, which is the best news. So what if you could start believing tonight that joy is available to you right here, right now? How would that change how you show up? How would that change how you react to things? How would that change how you work on your own healing? I want you to tell me in the chat, yes or no. Do you believe that a joy-filled life is available to you right now without any circumstances changing? Do you believe that? Put a 1 in the chat for yes, I do, and 2 for no, I'm not there. I'm going to give you permission to be exactly where you are. I tend to have a stubborn brain. Maybe you do too. And sometimes you can't just get to a place where your brain can believe that this joy life is available to you. And that's okay. Allow it to be there. But I know what I'm going to share with you tonight is going to help you. So, are we ready for the 4 steps? Number 1, the number 1 very first thing you need to do to create a joy-filled life after infidelity is create and build emotional resilience. The first step is creating emotional resilience and regulation for you. But what exactly does that look like in your situation? I know it's easy in our situations to look at others and think that they are living the dream, that their life, their marriage, their relationship is perfect. They drive the right car. They live in the nice house in the nice neighborhood. They have a husband who loves them dearly. They all show up to church on Sunday in their coordinating clothes. And yet, chances are they are not living a joy filled life. And how do I know that? Because I was that person. I was the person driving the right car, living in a nice neighborhood, seemingly having the husband who was great husband, great dad, had the kids in their color coordinated outfits for church on Sunday. And I was miserable and I was suffering. All that to say, everyone gets to have their own experiences of their life. And there's a study that just came out recently that shows that only 9% of women our age are satisfied with their life. That's women in their 40s and 50s. But here's my guess. If you had to name the number of women that you know who are joy-filled, maybe even living the dream life, I'm guessing your list would include more than 9% of the women you know. Because it isn't the circumstances or the marriage or the divorce or the betrayal that determines our joy quotient. It's our mental and emotional resilience. Our brains love to offer us things like, if my husband would just apologize, if he'd say this or do that. Secretly in your life, there is something that your brain tells you that if this were to happen or if this were to be said, then I would have more joy. Or when we get to this moment, I'll be more content. I'll be less sad. I want you to know that's not true. The way you experience the infidelity comes from your own beliefs and the way you regulate yourself emotionally. And that is always 100% in your control. But it's also 100% your responsibility. And while it's great news that it's always in your control, you could see the it's your responsibility not as great news. I like it because I don't want anybody else to be in charge of that, but it also requires you to do the work. When you learn how to live that way and take full responsibility for your own emotions, it doesn't take away the betrayal. It doesn't guarantee it will never happen again. It doesn't mean your marriage will always be easy from here on out. It doesn't mean any of that. You're still human and you will have human experiences and you will be married or connected to a human, but you will also have the knowledge and the know-how to regulate yourself and your emotions. And what a gift that is to give not just you, but everyone else in your life. It's so easy to get in the current of emotions of betrayal. And when you're in that current, you feel like you have no choice but to be stuck in that forever. And when you do this work and you learn this, you can get yourself out of the current of heavy emotions so much easier. First, you can identify when you're in them easier and you know how to get yourself back into a state of joy. That's part of the benefit of emotional resilience. I think many times we try to bypass the emotions of this experience because they are so hard and they are so heavy. but that will never give you the healing that you want. My coach always says, every emotion that you're willing to process makes you stronger, healthier, freer. I want you to take that in for a moment. Every emotion you are willing to process makes you stronger, healthier, freer. And the opposite of that is true as well. Every emotion you are unwilling to process makes you sicker and weaker and less free. So I want you to ask yourself a question. Here's the question. How many emotions have I been willing to process this week? How many times, second question, how many times have I allowed emotions to come and I've not pushed them away? So often before I learned to do this work, I would just push away any emotion I didn't want to feel. And I would just muster through my day trying to pretend that I wasn't feeling it. But that doesn't really work because the body keeps score. Also, when you push away the emotion like sadness, you also push away joy. Instead, if I had been willing to fully allow the emotion, maybe even let the tears flow, it would have only lasted a short while. And then I could have removed it from my emotional backpack because we all have an emotional backpack. But instead, I carried it around in that backpack for years. Yes, years. And I kept adding another brick after another brick after another brick. I added anger and sadness and resentment and bitterness and jealousy and unforgiveness until my backpack got so heavy, I physically couldn't carry it anymore. Now, when I work through an emotion, it often takes less than 10 minutes. Less than 10 minutes. And then I get to go back to creating joy again. So, what happens when we do this? Often it feels like this cleansing, like it gets us to the root of what we're really making it mean. Because the reason the betrayal is so painful is because we're making it mean something. And often we're making it mean something about us. And then when we have that, when we do this, we just get so much healing. I've been working to become the person who just wants to let it all out. What's in there that wants a voice? What's in there that I can give airtime to? What's in there that that's keeping me stuck in a way and in the way of my healing? That's making me weaker, that's making me less free. And how can I get it to come out? I want you to take radical responsibility for your emotional life. This is where you start. I used to say you had to start with mindset. I don't believe that anymore. This is where you start. This is the first step on your hero's journey. Asking yourself questions like, what am I feeling? What's coming up for me? Am I willing to allow it? Am I willing to be here where I am? Am I willing to say the thing I've been wanting to say? I know this is vastly different than what you thought I was probably going to come here and tell you tonight, but this is it. This is the key to healing. I've been listening to the Anderson Cooper podcasts about grief. I can't remember what the name of the podcast is, but listen, every episode I've listened to is so good because there is a grief in betrayal. It's not the same as a death, but there is for sure a grief. But I was listening to this, I don't know if it's the most recent episode, but a recent episode with Christopher Reeve's son. And I don't know if you're familiar with that story, but Christopher Reeves was paralyzed. And I think he died maybe when his son was 10 or 11. And then 2 years later, Christopher Reeve's wife, so this Christopher Reeve's son's mom, died of lung cancer. And so by the age of at 12 or 13, he'd lost both of his parents. And then I think he had half siblings, maybe from his dad from a previous marriage. But I was listening to that podcast and I literally had my phone out and I was taking note after note. But one of the things that I wrote down was this is a quote from Christopher Reeve's son. And he said, "You need to push on the pain points to get through them. You go to the gym to get strong. You read books to get smart. You go to the dark places in your own way to bring light there." That is how you heal and bring your joy to the world. Are you willing to go to the dark places and feel them and know them intimately? When you are willing to be with yourself in the hard emotional places, you will free yourself up to find the thoughts causing it and to find what you're making it mean. Taking radical responsibility is the first step. So, are you willing to process your life? That's what it means to process emotions. It simply means to process your life. If you're willing to do that, those emotions just become wisdom. Every emotion processed becomes a teacher. Every emotion unprocessed just stays in there, which is not good for us. This first step will change your life. It'll change every part of your life, not just healing from infidelity. And if you just stopped at this first step, you would have radical healing. I don't want you to stop there, but you would have radical healing. So are you willing to wake up to this work? Are you willing to be there in the hard emotions? When I came to this work, I had 10 years of suppressed emotions and I had to work through it. And I'm still working through it. And I don't want you to wait 10 years to do this work. I don't want you to wait 10 years to experience joy. I want you to create the emotional resilience you desperately need. Are you brave enough to do this? I think you are. There was another episode of Anderson Cooper's podcast where he had Andrew Garfield on. And he said, the longing and the grief, fully inhabiting it and feeling it is the only way I can feel closer to her again. The wound is the only route to the gift. He was talking about the loss of his mother, but this is it. The wound is the only route to the gift. Being willing to sit with the pain of betrayal is the only route to the joy. Are you willing? Because on the other side of it is untold freedom, untold health, limitless joy. I know it feels hard to be where you are, to acknowledge and feel right where you are. I know how hard and heavy that is, but this is the key to healing and to your joy. Life is too short to live it any other way than joy-filled. And we have to get back to letting the light in so the joy can ooze out of you. I want you to stop missing out on the rest of your life because the affair takes all of your emotional capabilities. We're going to stop staying in the sadness and we're going to start processing. You're going to become a woman who leads herself and leads her family well. And how powerful is that? There's a study from 2023 where women reported personal growth and increased self-awareness following the trauma of infidelity, which contributed to a renewed sense of purpose and happiness later. How did they do that? I guarantee you it was by working on their emotional resilience. You want to reclaim your joy and your purpose? Do this work. That's the first step. Step number 2, create nourishing beliefs. This is where the mindset stuff comes in. Romans 12:2 says, be transformed by the renewing of your mind. So here's what I want you to see. Every day, 1,000,000 times a day, you get to create what you want in your life. I'm not talking about taking away the betrayal or magically fixing the marriage, but you get to create the emotions that you want to have in your life. When I'm coaching my clients, I teach them a tool called the creation model. But what I want to talk about is this idea of challenging negative thoughts by creating nourishing thoughts or beliefs. Because when we get in this pain, when we're on this journey of infidelity, when we're invited into this super exclusive, private, secret club, sometimes the thoughts or the beliefs about ourselves, about our life, about our husbands, about our futures can become very negative. And so I teach this tool called the creation model, and it's based on something called cognitive behavioral theory. It's a sciencey term. You can go Google it. But it's this idea that your thoughts become your emotions, and your emotions cause you to take action, and your actions create the results in your life, which is why I called it the creation model. And if you want to create joy in your life, you have to have nourishing beliefs. If you want to show up from your most authentic self, which is the best version of you, you have to have thoughts and beliefs that nourish you and that nourish those emotions you want. I don't have time today to share with you all the ways that you can use this tool, but I just wanted to give you a brief introduction into it so that you can maybe learn how to dive into it more. But you get to decide, what are the thoughts and beliefs you want to focus on? When you think those thoughts and when you focus on those beliefs, you create an emotional state in your body. So you have to ask yourself, is this belief or thought that I'm carrying around creating joy in my life? You can use the creation model to interrupt the thoughts, because the thoughts, remember, create the feelings. Those feelings drive us to take action. And here's something really important. The whole cycle, I put it in a circle because we can often get stuck in a negative cycle, gives us a result. We get an internal result, which is how we feel on the inside, how we experience our life, comes from this creation cycle. So the results that you are getting right now in your life, you can change by doing this mindset work. One of the things that I learned on this journey was how important it was to, it mattered how you interpret your experience of the betrayal, because your body is capable of so much. It's like, I call it like the best bartender. It will serve you up whatever cocktail your belief is. And so if you look at your life and you keep saying things like, I'll never get past this, I'll never trust again, I'll never date again, he's never going to change, our marriage will never be good again, how you interpret the infidelity is how you will experience it. And so I want you to just be mindful of that, oh, hold on, I have the control it's in my control to decide how I want to interpret what has happened to me. Now, there's one thing I want to point out, which is why I now say you need to do the emotional work first before the mindset work. And that's when you do this work, you can create such a powerful mindset that it allows you to like bypass your emotions. That's not what we want. We want your mindset and your emotional resilience to be equal. And so that's why we start with emotions and then we move on to mindset. Number three is nurture your relationships. Now, I want you to notice here, I didn't say relationship. I said relationships. I'm not talking about your marriage or relationship with the one who got you here tonight. I'm talking about all of the other relationships in your life. This is one of those things that I just inherently did this when I was on my hero's journey. But it wasn't until I really studied the hero's journey and I looked back at my own experience and I was like, this was a key step in my healing. And creating relationships that bless us, whether they're with your children, your sister, your brother, your parents, your friends, your coworkers. For years, I pushed away friendships for fear that they would figure out my broken marriage. And when I started to work on my own healing, I doubled down on making friends. And when you do this work on yourself, it allows you to show up to those relationships in your life freer and stronger and full of joy. And you're just able to then create the relationships that nurture you. My sister and I are so much closer than we've ever been. And part of that is because I was willing to nurture that relationship during my hardest days. Now, that's not to say don't also nurture the relationship with your husband or partner. But for many of us, that relationship turns out to be either not worth nurturing or it's just not time yet to nurture it. But you can't nurture your broken relationship until you have done the first two steps, until you have worked on your emotional resilience and you have worked on your mindset. And until you do those two things, you're not ready to nurture that relationship with your spouse. Because doing that, nurturing that particular relationship requires an enormous amount of emotional strength. One of my favorite authors is a Catholic author named Matthew Kelly. And one of the first kind of self-help books I read shortly after my separation was a book by him. I've since read it probably 4 more times. I think I have 90% of the pages dog-eared because that's how much I wanted to remember from it. And so he wrote this, it's like an inspirational fiction. It's a fiction book, but it was so good. It was a super quick read. It's called The Rocking Chair Prophet by Matthew Kelly. But I want to read to you a little piece of this. It says, the best thing you can do for those you love, the strangers who cross your path, the whole world, and even those who will be born in the future, is to become a better version of yourself each day. You cannot do this and not grow in character and virtue. You cannot grow in character and virtue and not profoundly love God and neighbor. Is there a better way to love God than by becoming all He created you to be? Those first 2 steps tonight, creating emotional resilience and a strong mindset, will make you become the best version of yourself, will make you to become who He created you to be. And then when you do that, creating those nurturing relationships in your life seem easy. Okay, number 4. This one might surprise you a little bit. And one's not super hard, but it's create nourishing habits. Aristotle says you are what you do. When I look back on my time of healing, I see now that the habits that I created for myself were actually very healing. Some of the habits I created, I picked up running, and I created this habit of running 3 mornings a week, and it helped me with my stress and my anger so much. I started to going to our chapel once a week and created a habit of reading my Bible more regularly, something I hadn't been doing before. I created this kick-ass morning routine as a single mama that led to more productivity and less stress all day long. I started journaling when I was working on building my emotional resilience. So every habit you create for yourself makes you stronger mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. And listen, the world needs you strong in all of those ways. I call them authentic self habits, and those habits help you create the joy-filled life that you want, because your habits become your days become your months become your years, and your years become your life. So basically, your habits become your life. How you spend your day is how you spend your life. So you have to ask yourself, do I like how I'm spending my days? Do I like the person I am in those days? What do you want to give yourself to really nourish you? Something that helps you show up as a better version of yourself. What are the habits that help you become who you were created to be? Okay, I want to end this with reading one more quick passage from the same book. So the premise of this book is that this guy has had a tragic loss, and in case you decide you want to read it, I won't share too much. And pretty much gives away everything in his life. When you have a tragic loss, nothing seems important anymore. And he ends up becoming a prophet, not by choice. God just put that on him. And so people would come to him to get wisdom, to get inspiration, all of these things. And so this is a particular person coming to him, and her name is Samantha. And it says Samantha had lived a difficult life, and Daniel, who's the prophet, Daniel's heart was filled with empathy for her. She had made some poor choices, been misled and used, and like so many others, now found herself alone trying to make sense of her life. You are not what has happened to you, Daniel said, gently breaking the silence. I know, she agreed, unconvincingly, and sighed heavily. I'm not sure you do, Daniel continued. You may know it here, he said, tapping his temple with his index finger. But do you know it here, tapping his heart, and here, pointing to his gut? It's one thing to acknowledge it intellectually. Believing it in your heart and in your gut is very different. She sat looking at him. Can you say it? Daniel prompted. Samantha sighed. I'm not what has happened to me, she mumbled. It was barely audible. Can hear in your voice that you don't believe it yet, he said. And that's okay. Take a couple of minutes, close your eyes, and reflect on it. When you are ready, open your eyes, look me in the eye, and say it with all the conviction you can muster. A few minutes later, she did, and the change was palpable. Good, good, Daniel said, encouraging and affirming her. It will take some time to own that conviction, but that's how we make peace with our past. And then what? Samantha pondered. Ah, then we look to the future to empower the present, he replied with a boyish grin. What do you mean? She asked, perplexed. He replied with a question of his own. What are you looking forward to in the future? I can't remember the last time I thought about the future, Samantha explained. It's been taking all my energy trying to survive the present and get over the past. It is written, when you cry, dry your eyes, because better days are sure to come. And when you dream, dream big as the ocean blue. Maybe it's time to dream again, Daniel suggested. Our dreams animate us. They breathe new life into us. They fill us with energy and enthusiasm. Samantha looked bewildered. I'm not even sure I know what it means to dream anymore, she confessed. When do you think you stopped dreaming? Daniel asked. Samantha thought for a bit. Then, as she started to speak, she paused. She thought a little bit more before saying, I really don't know. It is written, where there is no vision, the people will perish. Our ability to dream is an astounding gift, Daniel offered. It's the third of the great universal gifts the Creator has endowed us with. The first is life itself, the second is free will, and the third is the ability to dream. To dream is the ability to look into the future, imagine something better. This gets me emotional. And then return to the present moment and take action to bring about that richly imagined future. Dreaming unlocks our unrealized potential. Everything that is dormant within you gets released in that moment, and you experience your pure potential. Sometimes the dream state only lasts for the briefest moment, but that's all it takes for you to see what is possible. I feel so lost and confused, Samantha said, deflating. That's okay. There was a time and a reason for that. But now that season is over. Your dreams are your dreams for a reason, Daniel said in a voice that was softer and even more comforting than usual. Follow your dreams. They know the way. If your dreams have been to live a life filled with joy, just like mine were, then you now know the way. Will you follow it? Okay, I just threw a lot at you. I hope you're hanging in there with me. I see we've got some questions, so I will get to those in just a minute. But how are we feeling? Are we okay? Did any of that book make you emotional like me? All right. Before we end the class, I'm going to share 3 ways that you can continue to learn how to do this work. And then at the very end, I'll answer the questions. So let me share those 3 ways with you. One is a free weekly support call that I host called the Joy Hour. It's mostly on Tuesdays at noon Eastern, but I do switch it around a little bit, and I try to have one evening call and one weekend call a month just so I can get everybody's schedules. And I've got the link. I'll put the link to this in the chat, but I also want to let you know all of these links that I'm going to be putting in here, you will get in emails that will come to you. So this is to sign up to, no, it's not. That's the wrong chat. I mean, that's the wrong link. Do not use that link. That was to sign up for tonight's class. Oops, hold on just a minute here. Okay, this is the link to the, yeah, that is the link to sign up for the Joy Hour. And it's free. It's totally free. You can come and get some coaching, get some questions answered, hear from other people, get support from other people. I really would love to see that grow. I think it can be so powerful for women. So if that's of interest to you, that's available to you. Okay. The second way is a brand new offer that I have just put the finishing touches on, and it's a small group setting, and I'm calling it Joy School, but I'm going to spend 10 weeks with 10 women, and I'm going to teach you exactly how to do steps 1 and 2 that I talked about tonight. So we'll spend 6 weeks on building emotional resilience, and then we'll spend the last 4 weeks diving into mindset. And so these calls are going to include some short teachings, and then they're going to also have opportunities to be coached by me as a certified mindset coach. And then you will have work to do outside of those 10 calls. And then we'll also have a Voxer, which is like an online walkie-talkie app chat that we would have going where you can ask questions and get additional support in between our calls. And I really want this to be as affordable as it can be. I want anyone who wants to do this to do this. And so I've made it $99. So basically $10 for each session. And again, I'm only taking 10 women. So I do have a payment option where you can pay 3 payments of $33 each. So first I'm going to put in the chat here, this is the pay in full. That is the $99. You just pay it and you're done. If you're like me and you're like, nope, I just want to pay it and be done. I'm going to budget for all of it. That's great. If you need a payment option, this will be 3 payments of $33 each. So you'll get, when you sign up, you'll pay $33. 2 weeks later, you'll be charged another $33. And 2 weeks after that, you'll be charged the last $33. And so that can, for people who get paid every other week, if you need to spread it out, that's an option as well. So that's the second one. It's called Joy School, and I'm only taking 10 women. The third way is one-on-one coaching. And this is what I had been doing. And I have 4 spots open for one-on-one coaching in 2025. And I would love to set up a time to chat with you about that and, find out what would be. So I'm going to include here the link to my Calendly calendar, where you can set up a 20 or 30-minute call with me where you can, we can just chat and figure out what's your best option. And if none of those options sound right for you, then I suggest that you keep following me on Instagram. You're obviously already on my email if you're getting this and you're here tonight for the call. So keep following me on Instagram and make sure you're listening to my podcast From Heartbreak to Healed, and that you're taking advantage of all the free resources I have. I'm always putting different free resources into my emails. And so make sure you're getting those. I also put the link to my podcast in the chat there. Don't forget, if you didn't catch a link, it's okay. You're going to get all of those in emails. So as soon as this recording is back to me, probably tomorrow, because I'm a granny and I'll be going to bed after this, I will include the recording and the links to all of these. But I just want to end this by saying that I'm so proud of you for being here tonight. You just took the first step on your hero's journey. And while it's not always easy, it's a path worth taking. I promise you. So thank you for allowing me to take up some of your precious time and your precious energy. I don't take that lightly.